a lot of crop last spring. The seeding period was exceptionally good because it was rather dry. And in the end, farmers planted over 37 million acres of Saskatchewan farmland. And that's about as good as it gets. We don't have much more land than that's available for seeding. 21 was a challenge for producers due to a lack of rainfall, strong winds, and damaging hail. The above average temperature raised havoc on the crops throughout the growing season and resulted in what ended up to be a prairie-wide drought. Strong commodity prices in the wake of the disaster provided some reprieve to some if you were fortunate enough to have a crop. And some people will tell you that weren't necessarily in the drought area, and with the high prices, it was one of the better years they've ever had. Unfortunately, for those who didn't grow a very large crop and maybe got caught up with some contracts and some forward pricing at less than ideal prices, it was maybe some of the worst years they've ever come through. Municipal hail insured 16.7 million acres last year, and that's all inclusive, including what we insure in Alberta and Manitoba, to a tune of $2.96 billion. This is an increase of 213 million, or about an 8% increase over the previous year. Total premium was over $100 million and represents about 55% of all the hail insurance written in the province. The 21 season produced 77 storms in 254 municipalities. However, the damage of these storms was very widespread and amounted to large claims, 5,971 claims, which is higher than the 5-year average. The acres damaged were a result of 2.7 million acres, and the 5-year average is about 2.4. So not a lot of storms, but big storms. Early in the season, because of the drought, there was poor recovery on the crops in the field. And then, of course, a lot of our big storms came in August, and there really is no recovery from storms that come that late in the year. This was a weather event, and some of the indemnity paid last year can be attributed to the drier, warmer, hot weather, which prevented early season regrowth. Heaviest volume of hail fell in the Arm of Cutknife. Number 439 paid out 6.6 million acres there. Next in line was Long Laketon, numbers at 6.1 million dollars, pardon me. And the Arm of Pence and the Arm of Kindersley both had payments of just under $5 million. So lots of hail around last year for sure. We also pay for fire damage on harvest fires, whether it's your combine or your truck that may cause some burning on some acres, and we'll come out and GPS those acres and pay your hail loss on those burnt acres. Had 24 of those claims for about $188,000. Total indemnity paid last year was $132 million compared to only $62 million the year before. So that $132 million certainly helped the economies of those people who did have hail damage, and it's a high number for municipal hail to pay out those kind of dollars. Pleased to say that even with the amount of hail that we had, that our field staff and our office staff were very, very good at doing the job that they're for, and all the claims were adjusted and paid out within our expected timelines. The financial hit of $132 million is not insignificant to your company. The underwriting loss of $55.3 million is offset somewhat by the $22 million that we took in interest that we got on investments. Mitigates the loss somewhat, so our final number of a loss last year was $32.5 million. Not a small number, but still manageable for the organization, and it's one that we don't necessarily not expect on occasion. We don't want to see that every year, but occasionally we do have a large payout like that. Last year, the basic indemnity started at $25 an acre and went up to $300. This year, I'm happy to report that we will be able to offer under SMHI $375 per acre. This limit is set by a formula created by the provincial government, and it's one that we're not extremely happy about because we think it restricts our ability as a board to manage the affairs of our own company. And we continue working with the government on that formula to see if it can better suit our needs. For producers requiring more than $375 an acre, we have additional municipal hail, of course, and prairie, and we can cover you for up to $850 an acre. And we feel that that is a number that probably should satisfy most of the producers in the province. This is our 7th year that we actually offered hail insurance into Manitoba and Alberta, and our uptake in both of those provinces still remains close to the proximity of our Saskatchewan borders. That was our plan, to go into that area very slowly. And we've actually increased the acreages now that we cover there by 500,000 acres in each of those provinces, with about $10 million of premium collected. So we're doing very good in both of those provinces. They seem to like our product and are happy that we're there to share it with them. The average charge rate for hail insurance over the last 10 years has dropped 42%. That's a big drop. Unfortunately, it's probably has come to an end with the severe losses that were incurred by all the hail insurance companies last year. Probably going to see some slight movement in the upwards direction on hail taxes for the coming year. We're in a strong position both with personnel and finances, so we're ready to go on the 2022 season. I want to take the opportunity to once again our sincere appreciation to the rural municipalities who deliver our product, to the administrators, and for the continued support of all that are involved in the delivering of municipal hail programs to producers, and also to our office staff and our field staff who continue to do a good job on our behalf, both in the office and out in the field. Municipal Hail is one of the few remaining associations run by farmers, for farmers, and we have the interests of farmers at heart because we are very farmer friendly. Thank you to Sarm once again, Ray, for allowing us on your agenda. We appreciate that. And for our members, we look forward to providing crop hail insurance for many years to come. We at Municipal wish everyone involved in agriculture a very safe and rewarding season. Maybe it'll rain a little bit this season and we can all enjoy the fruits of our labor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Municipal Hail. As a farmer's wife, I need water to bath my kids. So beyond that, we also need water in our dugouts, so we're hopeful for that. As we continue through the afternoon, this is just in, the cookies are here. So if you're gonna sneak in and out for that cup of coffee, the cookies have arrived as well. You're laughing, but they're really good, honestly, they're very good. As we continue through, I would like to invite onto the stage Saskatchewan Rural Crime Watch Association President Tim Brote. Tim has been a counselor for the RM of Edenwold since 2014 and has been a member of his local Rural Crime Watch since the 80s. Tim and his wife Brenda are three-generation farmers, having moved to their farm in '84, where they are organic grain farmers. They have children and their families have both settled within a mile from their farm, so they're lucky to be able to see their 5 grandchildren. They are very active in Rural Crime Watch, who they've engaged over 100 members to join their group. They are always willing to share any information they have with others who are starting to start their own Rural Crime Watch groups. With the use of cell phones and technology, they created a WhatsApp group, making it easier to be eyes and ears for the RCMP, as well as keep their members aware of what's going on in the area. Tim has been pushing this idea of Rural Crime Watch province-wide for many years, and we are so excited to welcome Saskatchewan Rural Crime Watch President Tim Brote to the stage. Tim.
Good afternoon. Some of you may recognize me as the Rural Crime Watch guy who's been preaching about the benefits of Rural Crime Watch groups for the last 7 years. And today is no different. As mentioned, I've been involved, I've been involved with the local crime watch group since the 80s. It started with great momentum, but unfortunately became inactive for a few years. With the surge of crime we were seeing in the rural area, we felt it was necessary to kickstart our group once again. So with a new, very involved executive and new technology at our fingertips, we have become a very active group. Seeing what a local group can do, I could only imagine that a much larger provincial group could accomplish. With the creation of the Saskatchewan Rural Crime Watch Association, my dream of an umbrella association that will assist smaller rural crime watch groups in Saskatchewan became a reality. The executive is comprised of 7 members from different areas of the province. The vision of this new group is to provide people information on starting their own crime watch groups. With the help of RCMP, Sask Justice, Sarm, SUMA, we are able to offer new groups as well as existing groups up to 17 free signs of each of the different sizes. Basically, it's a potential savings of $850 with their $50 membership, introductory membership to the Saskatchewan Rural Crime Watch Association. These free signs can then be sold by nonprofit organizations to their members, providing the group with a source of income which could be used for hosting annual meetings, informational center sessions, and meet your neighbors barbecues. Saskatchewan has 296 RMs with approximately 35,000 farms. If each farm has 4 people, that could translate into over 100,000 people watching out for our neighbors. With the use of cell phones, it makes it very easy for people to make note of suspicious activity they may notice in their area, which in turn could help the RCMP and other law enforcement agencies. As a Rural Crime Watch member, the main concern is to keep you and your neighbors safe. We are not deputizing you. We do not want you to take the law into your own hands. You can start by taking inventory of your own possessions. Make a note of serial numbers. Take pictures of. The more info you have, the better. Lock your vehicles. Pull the keys out of the ignition. And putting the keys in the sun visor or in the gas tank door doesn't cut it. Those aren't good hiding places. In closing, I would personally like to invite you all to take the initiative and start your own Rural Crime Watch group, and to then join the Saskatchewan Rural Crime Watch Association. Together, we can work on eliminating crime with all those yellow signs advertising that we are looking out for one another, and hopefully will deter the criminal element from our areas. Our email address is saskcrimewatch@gmail.com. Feel free to contact us with any questions you may have. We also will be at the table right by the breakout rooms that we do have signs if some of the groups have paid for their memberships already and stuff. They're welcome to pick up signs and everything from us too. And plus, I had just talked to some of the executive, and it sounds like we will sell some of the signs as it is, and the proceeds would go to the Saskatchewan Rural Crime Watch group. So thank you very much, and have yourselves a good day. Somebody wants to ask a question, will you?
Does someone have a question? Yes, okay. We're going to go on over to mic 1.
I guess I know what you're trying to say, but on the other hand, we're trying to put all these rules in place. And I don't know if you were ever over in Dubai. Were you in Dubai?
In Dubai?
Yeah.
No.
You don't lock nothing there. It's not your stuff. So you don't lock nothing, and nobody touches it. And if you steal something, they cut your finger off. They don't have no issues in Dubai with somebody stealing because it don't belong to them. So now we're supposed to, I've had gas taken out of my yard too. And the moment he asked me if I have the serial numbers on my jerry cans, I says, what farmer knows the serial number on his jerry can? Like, we catch these guys, but we don't do nothing. But you go to Dubai, things are, and nobody steals over there because they know what the consequences are, but we don't have any consequences here whatsoever. Just, I wanted to bring that out. It's terrible. Let's put some strong rules in place so when we catch these guys, we get something done, but we don't get nothing done.
Well, again, that isn't Saskatchewan Rural Crime Watch, though. And we're not a vigilante group. And what happens in another country happens in another country. So,
I can I'll piggyback that too. I think the idea, the innovation of creating Rural Crime Watch is so that we get to a place that we have, as he said, lots of eyes and lots of ears and technology now. You kind of sound like my dad, who's 77, and would say the same thing, just cut his finger off. But that really doesn't work. And I say that to my dad, who is very behind times too with technology. But I think we're on a path with every generation to create more awareness and have opportunity when you don't have a serial number to have Nest cams and to have cell phone images and to have cameras out, that there is more opportunity to catch the crime in the act, even something as small as a jerry can, which I know ours aren't, we don't have the serial numbers either, so I do get that. But if you want to learn more, there's also more information on the Sarm's website about the initiative with the RCMP and the ministry with Rural Crime Watch. So,
and we're going to be on the table
oh yes.
by the breakout room.
Okay, and once again, on the table outside of the breakout room if you want to talk more with Tim. But thank you, appreciate that. I sort of wish the media was here for that. They would have loved that comment of cutting their finger off. They would have ran with that, that's for sure. As we continue through our afternoon and we settle into another cup of coffee, I saw a few of you go out there for those cookies. I'd like to invite a familiar face on the stage. Please welcome Jay Meyer. He's the Executive Director with Sarm. Jay will take us through the AGM and financial report. Jay.
Hello, everybody. This won't be as exciting as Municipal Hail, I don't suspect, or Crime Watch, but please bear with me. We do have a financial report to do. Joining us this afternoon, we got two individuals from Virtus Group who are our auditors. We've got Sheila Filion as well as Tennille Wild. They are partners with Virtus Group, as well as we have Catherine Patterson, who's our Director of Finance. Catherine's over here. And we also got Colin Warnicki, who's our Manager of Risk at the Sarm office. So I'm going to do the report. We're going to have anybody that wishes to ask questions to feel free, and then we'll just pass a motion at the end to accept it. The report will highlight significant details or trends with respect to Sarm's financial results for 2021. The audited financial statements are available on the Sarm website, in the About section, and then under What's New on the annual reports page. The audit has been completed and a clean audit opinion was issued by Sarm's auditors. Sarm's financial statements have three components. The general fund accounts for Sarm's day-to-day operations. This fund includes all contributions and resources which are not restricted for use by the insurance and benefit funds or by any of the programs administered by Sarm from the provincial ministries. The Insurance and Benefits Fund report all revenues and expenses related to the operation of the Sarm Benefits Plan, the Liability Self-Insurance Program, the Fidelity Bond Plan, and the Property Self-Insurance Program. All funds are used to account for the externally restricted contributions and related expenses for programs and initiatives administered by Sarm. A wide range of programs are funded through external contributions by the provincial ministries. The following graph shows the general fund surplus each year since 2017. Can you do one more click there? Yeah, that would be it. Sarm has had a stable history of strong surpluses. This year, Sarm had a surplus of $490,132 compared to last year's surplus of $689,847 and a surplus of $741,773 in 2019. The Sarm General Fund Balance. This fund balance represents the sum of Sarm's general fund annual surpluses and deficits since beginning operations. This slideshow shows the growth in Sarm's general fund balance since 2017. At December 31st, 2021, the Sarm General Fund balance has $8,827,625. Sarm General Revenue. Memberships account for about 20.7% of Sarm's general revenue. Other than membership fees, the largest sources of revenue are administration fees and the net revenue from member services. Investment income varies significantly depending on the performance of the investment markets. Administration fees are transferred from the insurance and benefits plans as well as from any program administered by Sarm for external parties, such as the Rural Integrated Roads for Growth program, as well as our ag programs. Member services revenues. Net revenues from Sarm's member services are $620,667 in 2021. Through Sarm's member services, we strive to provide our member municipalities with quality service in products at fair prices. Trading Services provides a wide variety of products which have been tendered on our members' behalf at discounted prices through relationships with various partners. Sarm coordinates insurance and benefit programs through external carriers, including excess liability insurance, extended health and dental benefits, long-term disability coverage, as well as both group and optional life insurance programs. Member services revenue. Sarm's legal services represents RMs with respect to claims under the Sarm liability self-insurance plan and provides advice to RMs. The fees charged to the insurance plan and to members are well below market values or market rates, with a goal of breaking even or covering the cost of Sarm of providing these legal services. In 2021, legal services had a surplus of $49,948. Sarm's community planning services are available to all RMs. There are a variety of services offered, and these can be tailored to meet the needs of each individual municipality. The cost of community planning services exceeds the revenues generated through the fees for service. The net expense of community planning is funded by contributions from the Strategic Initiatives funding. Sarm general expenses. About 49.8% of Sarm's general expenses are for staff salaries as well as benefits. Salaries and expenses for the legal planning staff as well as for the program staff for the Rural Integrated Roads for Growth program are not included in general expenses, but are included as part of member services or program expenses. Board and other meetings and advocacy engagement expenses represent 14% of the total general expenses. This category includes per diems and honorariums, but also travel expense reimbursements and meeting and travel expenses paid directly to Sarm for board meetings, external committee meetings attended by Sarm board members, lobbyist fees, and staff travel expenses for advocacy trips. Insurance and benefit funds. This slide shows the summary of the operating results for Sarm's insurance and benefit funds. The following slides will provide additional information on the Sarm benefits plan and self-insurance plans. Sarm's benefit claims. This slide shows the claims paid by Sarm benefits plan over the last 5 years. The majority of the claims are for short-term disability and vision claims. I'll go on a little bit here about more when it comes down to the benefits plan. This slide shows the claims paid by the Sarm's benefits plan as a percentage of premiums paid in each of the past 5 years. The trends for claims costs in the Sarm benefits plan generally edges higher over time. notwithstanding fluctuations up and down from year to year. Rising claims costs are driven by higher salaries for individuals, but also in part due to our aging workforce. In 2021, overall claims costs for the plan were higher than 2020. We had a total of 42 COVID-19 related claims in 2021 compared to 31 in 2020. There were a total of 139 short-term disability claims compared to 141 in 2020. Vision claims costs were up by 78.5%, which can be attributed to the increase in coverage that was made for 2021, or was changed from 2021 from $300 per year to $500 per year for vision claims. Overall, the plan claims experience is within the range we have been experienced over the past 8 years. The operational surplus in 2021 was $210,432. The surplus included investment income of $252,135. The fund balance of $5,102,521 at December 31st, 2021 for the Sarm benefits plan is quite healthy, having grown steadily over the past 4 years. An actuarial study was performed on the fund in 2020 by Aon, showed that this fund had been somewhat overcapitalized. We are addressing this by returning additional value to the members in various ways. We've begun by increasing the vision and death benefits for members in 2021, along with increasing the admin fee paid to match the other self-insurance programs. For 2022, we implemented a rate decrease of 5% for inside and outside employees. We will continue our work to rebalance revenues and expenses for this plan with an eye of reducing the overall fund balance to an actuarial justified level over several years. Talk a little bit now about the liability plan. This slide shows the claims expense incurred by the liability self-insurance plan over the past 5 years. The claims experience for the plan has been generally stable, but can fluctuate depending on the nature of claims settled in a particular year. The annual operating deficits for the liability self-insurance plan, shown by the brown bars, let's get you to flip one more, excluding the investment income, which is allocated separately to the individual accounts. The investment income for each year is shown by the gray bars. Yeah, there you go. Operating results include claims that have been paid along with accrued claims based on estimates of potential claim payments. Each of the last 5 years have had operating deficits. However, the modest rate increases which have been implemented over the last few years are assisting in closing this gap. This slide shows an operating deficit in each of the last 5 years. The liability self-insurance plan's fund balance is $15.78 million at December 31st, 2021, and is healthy. Having seen significant gains over the past 2 years, it is now fully recovered from a $3 million claim incurred in early 2013. The actuarial study performed by Aon in 2020 showed that the plan is comfortably capitalized and a little light on premium rates. In order to close the gap between premium income and operation expenses, the Sarm Board of Directors approved a 3-year plan, which saw premiums increase by approximately 4.5% for 2021 and 2022, and this will see a further increase of the same amount in 2023. This will bring the plan premiums to approximately $755,000 by 2023, up from $620,000 in 2020. The actuarial study confirmed the exceptional value of this program to its members when it showed that the external insurance marketplace would range at least 45% higher premiums than was charged by the plan in 2020 to run the comparable program. The fund balance is the collective total of the individual accounts held on behalf of the members who participate in the liability self-insurance plan. Well, now I'll talk about property insurance. This slide shows the claims paid by the property insurance program as a percentage of premiums paid in each of the past 5 years. Property insurance claims tend to vary widely based on instances that happen in that year. It is a relatively small program, so a couple of large claims can make a substantial difference. The annual operating surpluses and deficits show for the property self-insurance program, shown by the brown bars, exclude the investment income which is allocated separately to the individual accounts, shown by the gray bars. Operating results include claims that have been paid along with accrued claims based on estimates of potential claim payments. While there has been one operating deficit in the last 5 years, there has consistently been surpluses due to the performance of the investment income. The property self-insurance program's fund balance, as shown in this graph, is healthy and growing, have had 3 back-to-back years with strong financial results. The actuarial study by Aon showed that this program is also comfortably capitalized with rates that are actuarially sound. We do not anticipate any rate increases for this program in the near future, which is notable in the time that external insurance markets is quite rocky and increases of 20% are currently the norm, depending on the loss experience. The fund balance is the collective total of the individual accounts held on behalf of the members who participate in the property self-insurance plan. I challenge anyone to say actuarial as many times as I said up here so far. Fidelity bond. This slide shows the claims paid by the Fidelity bond self-insurance plan as a percentage of premiums paid in each of the past 5 years. There is potential for wide variations in the claims paid amounts for this plan, depending on the nature of the claims incurred. As this is a small plan, one large claim can also make a substantial difference. The Fidelity bond self-insurance plan fund balance, as shown in this graph, is healthy and growing. Small rate increases back in 2016 and 2017 set this plan on a much healthier trajectory, one that can better withstand a future policy limit loss of $200,000. The actuarial study by Aon also gave the plan a clean bill of health, both in terms of its fund balance and its rate structure. For 2021, we increased the maximum money and securities limit available under the plan to $25,000 and rebalanced the premium tables for both the Fidelity bond and money and securities coverage to maintain a consistent value proposition between the purchase coverage limit and its respective premiums. So other programs, pursuant to the various funding agreements with provincial ministries, Sarm delivers a range of programs, as listed in this slide, that provide assistance to our members and which benefit rural Saskatchewan. Total funding for programs administered by Sarm was over $13.2 million in 2021. This includes all payments made to RMs, suppliers for the programs, and the administration fees for Sarm to deliver these programs. The Sarm cost charged of the provincially funded programs are specified in the various agreements. Costs are either charged directly to the program or are a recovery of allocated Sarm costs, such as staff salaries and benefits, office expenses, and office overhead. The recovery of allocated costs are recorded as administration fees in the Sarm statements. So this concludes the financial report, and at this time I'd like to ask our members if you'd have any questions. Okay, well, hearing none, I'd like to ask the membership if they would be willing to move the report as presented. If somebody could rattle off their arm. 397? It's like auction. 397 right here. What do you got over there? Okay. 397 we got. Okay, voting delegates, please raise your hand if you're in favor of passing the financial statements as presented. If you're in favor, please raise your hand. I see you, I see you. Okay, please put your hand down. Anybody opposed? Oh yeah, there we go. It's passed. Thank you, everybody, and I appreciate your patience. Have a good rest of the afternoon.
Thank you, Jay. I know that's sometimes hard to get through, but thanks, we did it, and I appreciate you staying in your seats for it as well. I want to remind you as well, tomorrow we're going to have our bitter end raffle draw, and it's pretty straightforward. You stick it out to the end, and then when we bring the draw drum up here, if we call your name out to collect your prize, you actually have to physically be here. Get it? Bitter end. So we do hope you join us tomorrow for our programming. Also, tomorrow we'll have our Stars 50-50 draw, our Sarm Challenge giveaway as well, and so we do appreciate you sticking it out to the bitter end. With that said, as we move through our afternoon before we take our break and head into our dialogue sessions, I'd like to welcome Vito. Now, you might have seen over the last few weeks in the media our newly ignited Friends of Vito commitment. At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Volker Gertz, the Director and CEO of the Vaccine and Infectious Disease Organization, located at the University of Saskatchewan. He previously served as Associate Director of Research for Vito from 2007 until 2018. Dr. Gertz is also a professor for veterinary immunology in the Department of Veterinary and Microbiology at the Western College of Veterinary Medicine at the University of Saskatchewan. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Dr. Gertz with Vito. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. If we could start the video, please. Is that possible? There we go. So Vito is really one of these unique organizations in the world. It's focused on new diseases when they emerge, the development of vaccines for those infectious diseases. We're part of the University of Saskatchewan here. In Canada, we're playing an important role as being Canada's Centre for Pandemic Research. The organization has about a 45-year history now, and it was always the same vision, providing solutions through research. So any new problem that emerges, Vito scientists would quickly put their heads together, come up with a solution that then can be translated and handed over to our stakeholders, livestock producers in the form of vaccines, or big industry by developing new adjuvants or new formulation technology. Vito really is very fortunate in having world-class facility, world-class infrastructure. We operate now one of the largest, most advanced high containment facilities in the world, enabling our researchers to work on all these emerging pathogens like COVID-19 and others. We have some of the best scientists, best researchers, students, animal care technicians, veterinarians, all with the common goal of providing solutions through research. We have more than 25 countries right now represented here, and that is really what makes this organization so unique. It's really the people that make our success, and we're very privileged to have some of the best people in the world right here at Vito and Tabac. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Volker Gertz. I'm the director of Vito, the Vaccine and Infectious Disease Organization. And probably right now, many of you are wondering why I'm here. And the answer to that is simple. Infectious diseases affect us all. They affect our families. They affect our businesses. They affect our animals. And the current pandemic is just a perfect example of that. So I'd like to thank Jay and the board for allowing us to address the convention this afternoon. What I'd like to do is really tell you about the research that's going on at Vito, not in great detail, but just highlighting all the exciting work that we are doing there, and then more importantly, tell you about the organization and where we are going by establishing Canada's Centre for Pandemic Research right here in Saskatchewan. And probably most of you had no idea that at the moment already, one of the largest research organizations in Canada focusing on infectious diseases is located right here in Saskatchewan. And with the vision of becoming Canada's Centre for Pandemic Research, we want to make sure that that will be here in Saskatchewan and not in Quebec or Ontario. And that's why we're here asking you to support our vision to establish one of the leading institutions in the country for new diseases, for emerging diseases that will continue to come. There will be another pandemic. There will be another disease that is affecting your cattle. There will be another disease that is affecting your pigs, to continue to build that capacity in Canada right here in Saskatchewan. And so with that, I'd just like to have a few slides summarizing what you have seen in the video there. So VIDO is really, as I mentioned, one of the largest research organizations in the country already. We have more than 45 years history of making vaccines, and some of you, in fact, may have used the vaccines that were developed at VIDO and then licensed to other companies. Very simple, this is what we do at VIDO. We do the research on new diseases when they emerge. The critical questions that come on very early. What kind of disease does it cause? How is it being transmitted? What's the role of our livestock species? What's the role of our domestic animals? What do we need to do to control it? Do we need a vaccine for it? Do we need a drug for it? Do we need an antiviral for it? And so that's the research that's going on at VIDO and has been for the last 45 years. We always have a product at the end in mind that you or your clients in URMs and municipalities one day can use. We also do a lot of contract research. Throughout the pandemic, we worked with more than 100 companies from all around the world who came to VIDO and asked us to test their vaccines, their technologies, to allow them to then develop it. And so some of the authorized vaccines that in fact are now available were even tested at VIDO. And of course, it's important that we also train the next generation of scientists. Canada, in the current pandemic, found itself in a situation where not only didn't we have enough manufacturing capacity to make our own vaccines, so we relied on other countries to make the vaccines for us, but we also didn't have enough researchers to work in the labs on something important as COVID-19 or any new disease. At VIDO, we had to hire quickly more than 30 individuals that are willing to go into a level 3 laboratory, as you saw in the video, an environment where you wear this PAPA, this full suit. You can't go to the bathroom, you can't have a coffee, and you work there for 6-7 hours focused on potentially a deadly pathogen that when you have a leak in your suit, you potentially could be exposed yourself. So it requires a special kind of individual who's willing to do it. And for Canada in the future to be self-sufficient as a country, it's important that we find them and that we train them. And that's what we do at VIDO. So here's a few examples of the vaccines that were developed over the years, and you can see even on the red side showing the economic impact of these diseases. These are all animal diseases, as our roots are really in the veterinary field. You can see even for animal diseases, as many of you might know directly, the impact is in the hundreds of millions or billions even every time a new disease emerges. And of course, COVID-19 has just paled all of that. Now we're talking about trillions of dollars if you have a global pandemic like COVID. And so this is a study that was done a few years ago on the research that was happening at VIDO on the impact, the return of investment for Saskatchewan. And so you can see this is a few years old now, but even then the impact was about 20 to 1. So on every research dollar spent, in this case $60 million over a few years, the estimated return of investment was $1.3 billion, so 20 to 1. So what I'm trying to say is investing into vaccine research, investing into understanding these diseases is a good investment for all of us. And so when the pandemic hit, VIDO was one of the first organizations in the country to respond. We were the first in Canada to isolate the virus from the first case in Toronto. It was an individual, not nasal swabs, so the swabs in your nose were taken at the Sunnybrook Health Center. They were then sent to the National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg. They sent it to us to isolate the virus. We did, we sent it back to them, and from there it went to all diagnostic labs in the country. We were the first in Canada to have an animal model established that allows us then to not only test our own vaccine, but also these technologies, as I mentioned, by the many contract companies that we worked with. And we're also now the first university in the country that has a vaccine in clinical trials. We're doing trials right now here in Canada. We're doing trials in Africa and Brazil, around the globe, to make sure that our vaccine one day will not only be available to Canadians, but also to those individuals in countries where people still don't even have access to the vaccines. Our trial is going on in Uganda, and in Uganda right now, vaccination rates are below 20%. 20%, 80% of the population still hasn't had access to the vaccine yet. But we're not focusing on human diseases now, as some of you may have heard or may taken the conclusion from the many radio interviews and media interviews. Vito will continue to focus on our livestock industries and serve our livestock producers. And so you can see here 2 of these magazines just highlighting it. It's all called what we call One Health, the linkages between human and animal health. And in fact, they're very, very close. And so Vito's strength is really serving both the livestock industry as well as moving into the human field. And so here's just a few examples of research that we're doing, diseases that we're working on. And you may remember bovine tuberculosis. It's not too many years ago that southern Saskatchewan and southern Alberta had an outbreak of bovine TB that almost cost the country its recognition to be TB-free, and that would have huge trade consequences for our products to go to other countries. You probably know chronic wasting disease is not slowing down. We're now seeing it move not only to the west and to the north, but also to the east, and you can see Manitoba just a few weeks ago reported their first case of chronic wasting disease. And then, of course, there is this threat that all of us are talking about, African swine fever. This disease that has been circulating in Asia for many, many years now, and when it comes here, and you heard me saying when it comes here, it's going to have huge consequences on our ability, on Canada's ability to trade with other countries. And so Vito is one of the few organizations in the world, in fact, less than a dozen labs in the world that is working on this important disease. And as you know, for us in Saskatchewan, of course, I don't know, you can't see it on the bottom right, there is the wild boar shown. That's where this virus lives, in wild boars. And as Saskatchewan is seeing more and more wild boars out there, now over 50,000 in our province, that's the risk that this virus will make its way into wild boar. But what I'm really here for is tonight, or this afternoon, is talk to you about the vision to establish Canada's Centre for Pandemic Research right here in Saskatchewan. Canada's leading organization focused on new diseases, whether they're human or animal diseases, and being able to rapidly respond to and manufacture vaccines right here in Saskatchewan for it. And so you can see there's 3 elements to it. There is the manufacturing facility, which you see in the middle there. Opening of that facility will be in a few weeks. May 26th is the date. Soon we will be able to make vaccines right here in Saskatchewan. There is also an upgrade to the highest level of containment called level 4, and that will allow us to work with any new pathogen in the future, whether it's a human or an animal pathogen. And lastly, we're also building a new animal facility that will allow us to house all these species from which we see these diseases emerge, whether it's bats that have all these viruses and we don't know why they have these viruses, whether it's ticks, reptiles, insects, even monkeys, all of these animals from which we see diseases jumping into humans. And all of that, of course, will position us as the lead organization in Canada for this kind of research. It will create more than 100 new positions, highly skilled workers that bring their families to Saskatchewan. And you can see this very important quote on the bottom there. One of the donors that sent us a check for $100 was a retiree, and she wrote a little note with this $100, and she said, I'm doing this, and I can't afford very much, but I'm doing this because I don't want my grandkids to experience another pandemic as we just did. And so what we need to make sure, and what I'm here to ask you for, is your support that we're keeping this center in Saskatchewan. There is, of course, interest right now in Quebec and Ontario that want to also position their institutes for the same, get more government funding and so on. Right now, we already secured more than $100 million to build the infrastructure that I just listed. And I'd like to thank both the federal but also the provincial government who really stepped up and gave us a significant support for this endeavor. but then also, of course, in the municipal government, the city of Saskatoon. But what we really need to make sure is by the community supporting what we're doing, that we're seeing this happening in Saskatchewan and staying in Saskatchewan. And so we have a fundraising campaign underway, which already is supported by Sarm, the Sarm board. You may have seen that in the press releases already, where we're now trying to raise more than $20 million to not only recruit the world's best scientists to Saskatoon, to work at Vito, to make it one of the best places in the world for infectious disease research, but also be able to operate the facility and buy the best equipment that we need for the best research. And so I really like to ask you for your support of this. It's important that we make sure it stays in Saskatchewan, that we're not duplicating this effort in Quebec, where there may be more money available, rebuilding what we already have, as I said, one of the largest organizations in Canada already. And so I'd like to just finish by thanking some of the donors, and you might recognize some of the business leaders from your municipalities who have generously supported already. We've raised more than $6 million towards the $20 million goal, and I hope that we will be very successful over the next few years to make all of this possible. So thank you very much for the time, and we'll be in the back there if you had any more questions for us. Thank you so much.
Before you leave, I just want to make sure that there's no questions. I don't want to miss anybody if anyone has anything they'd like to ask the doctor. Oh, we do have one coming up here. We'll just wait. We're going to turn to Mike 1 if you want to.
First off, doctor, let me say I know absolutely nothing about this field, so I'm hoping that maybe these questions don't sound too stupid, but I'm assuming you come up with vaccines for both bacteria and viruses.
Correct.
Okay. What would kind of the split be? And the second question would be, how much more difficult is it to come up with a viral vaccine as opposed to a bacterial vaccine?
So that's a good question, and there is no easy answer to it. So if you look back at the vaccines that we have, most of them are actually bacterial vaccines. So we have made both bacterial and viral vaccines. Many of the new emerging diseases are viruses, and so I would forecast or predict that in the future we probably see the need for more viral vaccines for these new diseases. But at the end of the day, it's hard to really predict. You know, you can have another strep suis, a disease of pigs that, you know, a few years ago made its way into humans. It's a bacterial disease, and so there, in that case, we would need to have a vaccine for that. So it's honestly, it's very, very hard to predict whether it's a bacterial or viral. What you need to be able to do is both. And not only that, but also have vaccines for even parasites, right? Malaria is a parasite. Leishmania is a parasite. We don't have many of them in North America right now, but with climate change continuing, the vectors are moving into North America, and these vectors are bringing the new diseases. And so I think it's reality for all of us farming in Saskatchewan that we will see in the future diseases that we never have seen here before.
Thank you. We have another question on Mike 1 again.
Yeah, so Dallas Tolles here again. I'm probably a little more well-versed in CWD than maybe the generic population. One thing I'd like to know is, like, is there a way that you guys can reach out to work with other organizations? You know, like let's say in the States they're doing a lot more because it's more of a, you know, we don't have much of ungulate farming around here. For those who don't know, that's the main reason why CWD spread years and years ago. So I just didn't know if you guys are working with other operations. That being said, we're talking about viruses and bacteria and stuff when CWD is in fact a prion, which is not actually a living organism. It stays in the soil for many, many, many years that doesn't biodegrade. So dealing with a prion instead of a virus or bacteria, how are you guys planning to go forward to deal with it?
Excellent question. So number one, Vito had already one of the world's first vaccine candidates for chronic wasting disease. We developed it a few years. We tested it in our facility. We had elk in our facility for 18 months. And unfortunately, the vaccine that we had designed didn't work as well as we wanted to. It still gave a good response, but it didn't give the wow effect. And so right now, we're in fact working on a next generation vaccine for chronic wasting disease. And we're doing that in partnership with, for example, the Safari Club, the outfitters. In fact, just on the drive down here from Saskatoon to Regina, we had a call with the outfitters presenting to them as well. So they have in the past supported this research, but they're also supporting now what we're building here and as we're moving forward.
How do we go about getting more government funding into a program like this? Because like you said, it's mostly SCI, Safari Club International, the Boone and Crockett organization, those kind of outfits that are actively seeking out cures for CWD right now. I guess my question would be is, how do we go about getting more government funding, and how do we make sure that more of that government funding goes directly to combating the cause?
So it goes directly back to you. Governments respond to you. When you go to the governments and say, we need more research happening on chronic wasting disease, the Ministry of Agriculture here in Regina has funded our research on chronic wasting disease for many, many years now. But if you and all of you are going to your governments and saying, we need more of this in the future, then the province and the federal will listen. It's really the livestock producers, it's the farmers, it's the youth, the business owners who can drive that.
So my question would be, if you were the emperor of the world here, what would be your movement going forward to combat this? Is it money? Is it research? Is it a
Chronic
combination?
wasting disease specifically?
Yeah, or is it just a general awareness? What do you think is the best course going forward?
It's a combination of a number of things. So number one, we need a vaccine for it, a vaccine that protects. Number two, we need a proper diagnostic test. Right now, we don't even have a test, like a blood test, that allows you to specifically recognize whether you have infected animals or not. We need to have the awareness of people that, when we go and hunt, we need to be aware that chronic wasting disease is out there. We need to be able to bring our vaccines with baits to where the wildlife is. We need to get it there so that it doesn't spread into our farmed herds. We need to have government programs that allow us to reimburse you for the losses of your land when you farmed these animals and be able to repopulate your herds after a while. And lastly, I think it's the general awareness that all of us together need to understand that these diseases are important. What we do, and maybe this is a little bit polemic, but what we do is a disease comes, SARS-1 comes, right? And everybody is worried about pandemic preparedness. And then 2 years later, we all are kind of falling back into our regular lives. And then a swine flu comes, and then a Zika comes, and then a new coronavirus in pigs comes, and then a MERS comes. But it's always like this, right? It's never the fire insurance mentality where we're saying these diseases happen, we need to invest and put money away, like into a fire department. We do research, we work on them so that we're ready. We don't need to scramble when the next disease comes, quickly hire people, quickly find vaccines, and then in Operation Warp Speed in the US, hand out billions of dollars to vaccine companies when the fire is already burning. You want to do it before. You want to have your trained firefighters, your centers where you can do the research, and have them globally connected so they all work together.
I often look at CWD it's in layman's term, it's the ungulate version of mad cow disease, right? Which affected so many ranchers around here. It dropped the markets instantly. However, because livestock has value in Saskatchewan and in Canada, all of a sudden everybody got together to combat it, to find out where we track this original source from, how do we get it out of there. I often say with CWD management, not just in Saskatchewan, but we are often reactive and we're not proactive, right? So we're often seeing what happens, and then we look in hindsight how we could have done something differently, right? So like I said, I guess my curious question would be, like, looking forward, how can we be proactive? How can we manage ahead of the 8 ball instead of behind it?
Doing more research. We need to understand the disease. We need to understand how we can control it, as I said, through vaccines, through diagnostic, through management, right? And then lastly, I think, we need to think about what happens if we see another wasting disease in another species. Right now, it's in wildlife, in deer and elk and so on, but what if in the future we see a chronic wasting disease in cattle? I'm just, throwing it out, but that's how proactively we need to think about today and not when we have it.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate it. Some great dialogue. We've been busy here at convention, but it also has been very busy with our friends over at RMAA. They've been throwing some rocks, some curling rocks. Tuesday wrapped up their big curling event with RMAA. Please take a look at the screen beside me for the winners. Congratulations, the final winners, RM of Wolseley, number 155, and the runners-up from Hazeldale, number 335. Hazeldale does not look happy that they're runners up in that picture. Either way, it's a really great event that we love to celebrate, so thank you to the RMAA for having that on Tuesday. We're going to take a short break. Following the break, please make your way to the dialogue sessions, and then after that, happy hour on the trade floor at around 5 o'clock. If you're confused where the dialogue sessions are, it's on the screens right now, but also as you just sort of wander through towards the rooms, there's large signage of what minister is in which room, so it should be easy for you to navigate. In the meantime, I will see you again tomorrow morning. Enjoy your dialogue sessions and happy hour, and we'll be back again for our final day tomorrow. Thank you.